Hello, I'm Mark Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the pleasure of Aggrey Lutta, one of the directors of CAE Technologies in the house. In fact, the culture director, but also just moved into a business coach role. So we've actually just got you at the right time to better talk about it.
Perfect timing, Mark.
So for those of the listeners that don't know you, Ags, can you give them a bit about your background, your career today? And I'll kick you off for a bit because you originally had a good stint at Computer Centre, if I'm right. So tell me about how that happened as your sort of first 8 years there.
Yeah, okay, Computer Centre. Yeah, that's an interesting time. So going back further than that, I'm obviously a veteran in this industry now, been in my late 50s, but it's been an awesome journey. And I was working at British Aerospace beforehand. We didn't talk about this before at lunch. Thanks for lunch, by the way. That was awesome.
That's all right.
Good recommendation. But I was working at British Aerospace and I wanted to get into IT because it just came in mid-80s. And I wanted to be a service engineer. So I took a massive pay cut to move to good old Birmingham and get a job up there at another company. And then I then wanted to move to Computer Centre. And then years later, I was just lucky enough to get someone I knew, an ex-manager. I worked for the company in Birmingham, moved to Computer Centre, took me to Computer Centre. And I've got to say now, what a great company they were. It was fantastic working there. I was there for actually 11 years.
11 years?
11 years in the end, yeah. And it was actually awesome. And I ended up being a service engineer, then ended up being a manager. But to me, it was all around sort of the way that the team and the management worked together. Absolutely loved it there. It was crazy. I thought it was there, and all the other I was talking over lunch, weren't we, about the Wild Wild West. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street sort of scenario. You know, we did some crazy things there. I loved it at the time, but now obviously with, you know, sort of D&I and everything else coming on board, it's a lot more sensible and corporate now, as we politely say.
Absolutely.
So it's great journey.
Why did you leave then? So you'd obviously been there 11 years. Why did you leave Computer Centre?
What it was actually my wife was pregnant with our first child. And I was fortunate enough to have been there 11 years. So I had a good opportunity for redundancy. And I was fortunate enough to get some shares there. But what I found was interesting, I did speak to my wife about it. I was going to take a year off, see my son grow up, happy days, wonderful, wonderful. And one reason I left, though, that was the first main reason. But the other reason I left was because the company had grown so big. They were so successful. It was awesome. Mike and Co, well done to them. They did a fantastic job. When I joined, I think there's about 400 people. When I decided to leave, there's like 5,000-6,000.
It's a lot, isn't it?
And I just didn't feel part of that family, whatever you want to call it. So it was just time to move on.
So did you have a job to go to when you took?
No.
You didn't?
No job.
You had a kid on the way?
Yeah.
What was your wife thinking? It's like, why have you made yourself unemployed, Ags? What are you doing?
She's been through me thick and thin, bless her, I must admit. It's really funny actually, we didn't talk about this, we did speak to parents who went, oh my God, you know, what are you doing with redundancy? She said, oh, we're down a bar having some champagne now. We're going to enjoy life. You know, life's too short, we've got to enjoy it. No, she's with me all the way, in all fairness. She loved it, so... You know, we've been together, crikey, 30 years now, but, you know, so...
So in that time, what were you thinking? Obviously, you took redundancy, you're rethinking your life. What was the thought process? I
wanted to find a really small, sort of, not niche company, but a real small company where you mattered. You added value to them, and you felt valued by them. And so, fortunately enough, and again, I mentioned to you before, most of the jobs I've managed to get through people I've managed to meet in industry. It's a small industry, really. You know, so therefore, be good to people, be honest with people, be authentic self. Can I swear? Don't take the piss, basically. And a friend of mine contacted me and said that the company, CAE, were looking for a manager, services manager. They just won their very first Cisco contract. This was only 3 months into my year off, sabbatical. But I remember going for the interview. I can remember walking outside, and it was literally a tin hut down in Hempstead. I'm thinking, what am I doing? I've just left Computer Centre. So maybe taking a year off. Yeah. I'm standing outside this tin hut, and the manager was late. The owner was late for the interview. But I got chatting to some of the staff, and I thought, actually... this is what I want. And it ended up being the best job ever.
And who interviewed you? Was it Justin or?
No, Justin wasn't there at the time. Justin was still at Computer Centre.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Joseph, who was the owner at the time, interviewed me. And a sales guy who's nameless, interviewed me because he'd won the big Cisco deal.
Wow.
And so, the rest of
Cisco. How many staff were there then?
There was only about 20. It was awesome.
Wow.
Absolutely what I wanted. It was crazy, absolutely crazy, don't get me wrong, but I loved it.
You took me through that journey. So what year was that? 2000?
That was 2000.
Okay, so then you had 2 or 3 years and then there was an opportunity. Justin obviously must have come on from Computer Centre.
That's correct, yeah. He joined about 6 months after me, yeah.
And tell me how this MBO happens, because a lot of the listeners out there will think, oh, they're working for a company, maybe they're in a key position, they'd like to get an MBO, but maybe the owner doesn't normally exit. Yeah. They normally keep them on and thinking, oh, I'm going to sell, and they actually never do. How did this happen, this MBO? Right,
what happened was, in a nutshell, we believed in the company. We believed in the people, we believed in the company. So me and Justin and one of the brothers, wanted to take it further. In fairness to the original owner, I think he'd taken it as far as he wanted to. You know, it was like a sort of like a lifestyle for himself and his wife, which is absolutely great.
Yeah.
So we broke the conversation with the brother, and fortunately for us, the original owner said, "Yeah, go for it." So we, 2004, we became owners.
Right, so literally, one day you're the service running services.
Yeah,
the next day you're one of the owners.
Yeah, absolutely.
That must be a scary point.
It was. You can.
And your wife stayed with you.
Again.
She's had many reasons to go.
We took a high risk. Don't get me wrong, we did take a high risk strategy to get there. Obviously, putting money down for it. But I think I was saying to you before, we had a really great a really stressful first year, and people can't see me here obviously now, but I did have a big afro. But trust me, that all fell out very quickly in that first year. It was challenging, to put it mildly.
How does your mindset change when you've worked for a company, you're obviously passionate, you're obviously good at your job, but then to suddenly become the owner and think, shit, I'm actually, the buck stops with you.
Yeah, so that's it. You have some sleepless
How
nights.
does your mindset change to that?
It was really tough. In all fairness, I'm not really good with numbers. I won't lie. I'm good with people. And when we have the board meetings every month, we're going through all the figures, thinking, "Oh my gracious me, how are we going to get through next week?" And the employees they're coming to work, they're going home, they're all happy, and we're staying hours into the midnight trying to work out how we're going to get through the next month. But that was part of the deal. In all fairness, we knew what we'd signed up to, and thank God we came through to the end.
Wow, what was the main stresses? Obviously, there's obviously financial pressure. What was it? Was it people pressure? Was it?
Yeah. To me, I'm glad you asked that question. To me, the big ones are people there thinking, crikey, it didn't go wrong, thank God, but had it done, you're thinking, you're responsible here. I never really taken it on board as being an owner. It sounds really exciting, own a business, millions of pounds it's making, that's all great and wonderful. But if it goes wrong, then suddenly thinking the buck stops with you, as you said, Mark.
People's mortgages, people's lifestyles, careers.
And I'm a people person. I get to know them, I know their families to a degree, especially when that's only 20 odd people. It was like, good Lord, we never got anywhere close to that, thank God, but it's in the back of your mind every day. Whereas with an employee, you just happily come into work and go home.